Oh, it's on!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Pitch Unhinged. Today we're going to be talking about football. We're going to be talking about the NFL playoff picture. We're going to start with an AFC segment, then an NFC segment, and then we'll make our Super Bowl picks. So, first segment, we're going to have 5 minutes to talk about the AFC starting now. So, if you look at the AFC playoff picture, everything's pretty much set. The first 5 teams are all clinched. The 6 seed Chargers have to win 1 out of 2 against the Patriots and the Raiders. So, in my book, they're in. But then we have the 7 and 8 seed playing this weekend. That's where it gets interesting. The Broncos and Bengals. If the Broncos win, it's over. They're in, Bengals out. If the Bengals win, though, the Broncos are going to have to go beat the Chiefs next week to clinch a playoff spot. And if you look at the Bengals team, what jumps off the paper about this team is obviously the trio of Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. And they have produced 42% of the Bengals offense. However, some reason they're still 7 and 8 team. And that's obviously because outside of this trio, outside of Chase and Higgins, they're not a very good football team. So if the Broncos can slow down Chase and Higgins, they'll for sure win this game. So let's look at the Broncos corners. Obviously, on one side, you have Pat Surtain, probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Quarterbacks have a higher passer rating when spiking the ball than when targeting Pat Surtain. However, on the other side, it's been inconsistent. At first, Riley Moss was playing good football, but then after Riley Moss went down, the Broncos started to struggle. When Riley Moss was healthy, the Broncos were allowing 319 yards per game. When he was down, they were allowing over 400 yards per game. According to Sean Payton, he should be ready to go this week. And if he's actually at 100%, I think the Broncos win this game. But if he's trying to play through injury, I think the Bengals are going to pull it out. What do you guys have to say about this game?
I think the Bengals are just like you said, outside of Burrow and Chase, obviously they're not as good, especially their defense. All right, their defense is 28th in points against. But when you have Burrow and Chase, who Burrow's first in yards, second in touchdowns, sixth in completion percentage, you got Chase who has 1,500 yards already and 16 touchdowns. Even when you have a guy like
All right, but it's
Surtain,
going against Pat Surtain. Pat
very,
Surtain
very
held
hard.
Mike Evans to 17 yards.
For sure.
He'll hold. Chase will play. He
can't.
will score, but he's not going to take over the game. And if these guys aren't taking over the game, the Bengals aren't going to win.
He's not taking over the game, but the Broncos offense and the Bengals defense is not great. But Bo Nix, if you look stats wise, he's not top 10 in really most of his stats. He's playing well and he's playing well for a rookie, but he's not going to be able to take over a game. So I think it's going to be a very close game. I think the Bengals will pull it out, and I think it's going to come down to next week. But next week, obviously, you have the Broncos playing for everything, playing for being in the playoffs, and you got the Chiefs playing for absolutely nothing. They're clinched. They're done.
Yeah, Shawtai
So I think at that point,
earlier.
Broncos are going to win that
Yeah,
game.
I actually before the show I mentioned to Nathan that the Broncos playing the Chiefs next week is going to essentially be an easy win, I believe, for them, since they already clinched the 1 seed. Obviously, they're not going to be playing any of their stars intensely as they rest
Also,
for the postseason.
let's be honest. Let's be honest. The Chiefs would rather have the Broncos in the playoffs than Joe Burrow.
They're afraid of Joe
I'm going to
Burrow,
be
you
honest.
think? A little bit.
They don't want to face Joe Burrow
Yeah.
in the playoffs. I
I-
don't care what the Bengals record is right now. I don't care what their defense is.
Could we see
They're
Big
afraid of Joe
Red
Burrow.
Andy Reid lose
sure.
on purpose?
They're more afraid of Burrow than they are of Bo Nix and a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I
would
guess
not
that
be
makes
surprised.
sense. But Sean Payton
Would not be surprised at all.
has coached
Like,
very
for
good
them,
games.
there's
all
no-
three. Sean Payton's coached very good games against the Chiefs all 3 times he's played them as the Broncos head coach. The Broncos beat them last year. They came a blocked kick away from beating them this year. I don't think that you want either team in the playoffs right now. And you're not going to let the Broncos in, because then if the Broncos beat you, you're swallowing your shoe. How
No,
Ever.
I disagree. I think the Bengals are still the much scarier team.
Playoffs are different.
Even if the Broncos,
agree.
do have this, favorable matchup, even though they're the obvious underdogs, I still don't think anyone is viewing the Broncos like they would the Bengals.
So if the Bengals
It also
win
all
this
starts in the
week,
playoffs about your quarterback production. If the Bengals,
Yeah,
I think
obviously.
the Bengals will win this week, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to matter.
yeah. So
But I
if
think
the
the Broncos
Bengals
are
win
going
this
to
week,
win next week.
and then they
Probably
win
win.
next week, but the Broncos win next week, it's not going to matter because the Broncos can clinch with winning either one, because the Broncos have a 2-game lead right now. And then so the Broncos would have to go 0-2,
Yeah, exactly.
the Bengals would have to go 2-0, and then they have the tiebreaker from the head-to-head. So, all right, that's a bit less than 5 minutes, but let's move on to our NFC side. So starting now, let's talk about the NFC North is probably the biggest question here. We have the Vikings and the Lions tied at the top, and they're going to play not this week, but next week, which makes both teams play their starters in the final week of the season, which is very interesting. What do you guys think about this matchup? Who do you guys have?
This is really exciting. This is the huge matchup to watch next week. Um, I think I have the Lions in this one, just because of the whole similar to what I was saying about the Bengals. They're just a scarier team.
Or intimidating?
Everyone, yeah, every team who's played against them has circled this game on their schedule to prepare a little bit extra for, and I think the Lions will also have a deep run in the postseason as well. So I'm taking them against Minnesota.
I agree with that, Shopta. I think the Lions and just the way Jared Goff has been playing has been absolutely unbelievable. His completion percentage is over 70%, which is crazy. Then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's top 5 in receiving yards. You've got their defense, who's just been so much better than last year. And last year, think about how well they did. Made it to right deep in the playoffs. And this year, they're a much better defense, right? Their points against is full 4 points less. They're top 10 this year. They weren't even in the top 15 last year. So I think the Lions are going to be a very, very scary team. I think they pull it out against the Vikings and they make a very deep run in the playoffs.
So when researching for this, I saw two things come up constantly. And the first one was a big concern. The first one was that they currently have 22 injuries on their team. That's a big concern. However, I think Dan Campbell, he's found a way in the past. He'll continue to find a way. However, what interested me a bit more was that the knock on the Lions was, as Shoptime mentioned, their postseason run last year, and that ended because of a gamble by Dan Campbell that backfired. And everybody was talking about Dan Campbell keeps on gambling, and well, it does kind of work out for them. It's eventually going to backfire. And then I took to be able to look into it, and it doesn't really, because the Lions, despite being despite running the fourth most, not the most, but the fourth most scrimmage yards, they're 12 attempts behind the league lead in fourth down attempts. It's not like they gamble so much. They're just every single gamble is successful. That's why we hear about it. But they're not nearly as much of a risky team as they're played out to be. They're not one of the top teams in the league in fourth down on attempts, and they do convert. You'll never guess. It's perfect. Dan Campbell's fourth down conversion percentage, 69%. They don't gamble as much as people make them out to be, and they're successful. I really like these Dan Campbell Lions, and I think it's very realistic for them to be the NFC's representative in the Super Bowl.
Another thing is that
when we get to that segment.
Another thing is that this week the Vikings are playing the Packers, who are fighting for their seeding in the wild card, whereas the Lions are going to be able to not take a rest, but they're playing the 49ers, who are eliminated. So I think that gives them a little bit of, more rest than the Vikings would have this week going into the final week of the season. So I think that gives the Lions even more of an advantage in the matchup between them.
Yeah, we saw the Lions win in Minneapolis, so now that that's going to be in Detroit, even more so. The Lions should have the advantage here. However, Sam Darnold's been clutch. I don't think we can count them out. However, I'm definitely, as you guys mentioned, definitely leaning Detroit.
100%.
So, Gears, you want to say something about? You said that you're waiting to get to the next segment to speak about their Super Bowl chances.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. So, I think that's going to be a close game. I think that the Lions probably take a 2-score lead late in the game. However, if it does come to a game-winning drive, Sam Darnold's been good at those. Should be a good game. We're leading Lions. Okay, so now for our third and final segment, we're each going to go quickly, 45 seconds, make our Super Bowl pick and explain why. And then after all three of us have made our pick, we'll have about 60 seconds to debate. So, Gears, why don't you start us off?
All right, I got Lions Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Just real quick, you don't get a bet against the Chiefs in the playoffs. You don't bet against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. He dominates every single game and he finds a way to win. Lions wise, the Lions defensively much better than they've been, like we said before, much better than they were last year. Made a deep run without that defense. Now they have this defense, which is unreal. David Montgomery is probably going to be back for the divisional round. He wants this. That's what he's eyeing. That's his return. You got Hutch, who said he's going to make it back if they make it to the Super Bowl. So I have them
And who did
making
you
the
say
Super
was going to
Bowl.
win?
I have Lions winning. I don't have the Chiefs three-peating. I think a three-peat is tough. And I think the way the Lions have been playing without Aiden Hutchinson, and then they get their best defender back for the Super Bowl if he comes back, which he said he will. I think they take over. I think Dan Campbell gets his first Super Bowl.
All right, Shoptown, what do you have said?
I disagree with you a little bit there. As you said in the first half of your statement, you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and I think that's going to reign true. I see time and time again, especially from being a lifelong Patriots fan, that from the Tom Brady dynasty, that the best players always seem to find a way to win. And even if the Chiefs haven't been there crazy magical offense like we've seen in previous seasons, they're first in points allowed per game, as well as first in time of possession. So I really think Mahomes is going to be able to bring that, three-peat home.
So as you guys both mentioned, over the past couple of years, there's been one team that's dominating the NFL. And this year, every time they get into a close game and every time they find a way to win. And as a Broncos fan, it's so hard for me to do this, but they've won 11 one-possession games this year, and therefore I'm not picking the Chiefs. If you can't put a team away, it's going to come back to bite you. And therefore, I'm taking the team that leads the NFL in fourth quarter scoring. My Super Bowl champions. Give me them Buffalo Bills. The Chiefs allow 30% of their points in the fourth quarter. And the way I see it playing out is exactly the way it played out in the regular season. You're not going to blow out Josh Allen. It's going to be close in the first three quarters. And then the Bills are going to take a two-possession lead. And you can say, Mahomes, he always finds a way to get that game-winning drive, always finds a way to win it at the end. You can't get a game-winning drive if you're down by two possessions. We saw last time they played, the Bills scored 16 points all game long, and then the fourth quarter, they scored 14, went up by 10, and it was over. Josh Allen will end this game in the first half of the fourth quarter. And then the Bills, once they knocked off the Chiefs, they go on and win that Super Bowl. All right.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
All right.
What?
Bills, I cannot, again, the Bills are playing great. Josh Allen is playing great. But I don't see them beating the Chiefs in the playoffs. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes.
It's got to happen eventually. Josh Allen wants it more this year.
Will it? Does he?
It's got to happen eventually.
Why? Because he has Haley Steinfeld? It ain't happening. Josh Allen ain't winning this. I have Patrick Mahomes. He's going to make it to the Super Bowl. But I think a three-peat's too hard. I don't think they hit the three-peat. But I cannot see the Bills. The Bills have to prove it to me first before they. Yeah, I'm not going to say it until they do it.
It's a solid point. Like all season long, the Chiefs have just been beating their opponents, which makes you think like they don't really have what it takes. But just by watching Mahomes play, especially in this past week, you see how easy football is for him. And I think in those games he's really just been conserving himself. With that ultimate goal of the Super Bowl on his mind, as opposed to previous years where he's really just been trying to put on the flashiest football. It really looks like Patrick Mahomes is doing just what it takes to win. And when it comes down to the playoffs, he'll obviously, go a little bit more all out in order to take those multiple score leads to put the games away early, as opposed to just trying to conserve himself to win those close games.
I think the NFL is too good of a league. You don't conserve yourself. I think that you have to play your hardest every single week or you'll lose. It doesn't work like that. The difference between
there's a reason one team has come on top.
NFL.
There's a reason one team has come out on top so much recently.
Like, also, if you look defensively,
yeah, Brady owned Manning until he didn't. Defensively,
Yeah, that was their
yes,
defense.
but I think that
But
Josh.
that was their defense.
Well,
What, Brady versus Manning when
but
Manning
they
made the Super Bowl? That was not
all
Manning.
right, they
That was
allowed.
Von Miller.
Oh, the last time, but Manning beat Brady in the championship game multiple times. Brady won more times, but Manning, it happens eventually. You can't beat a guy every single time. And I think this is the year that Josh Allen has probably his best weapons, his best offensive line, and he's been playing the best he's ever played. I think this is the year. I think at the end of the day, legacy-wise, Mahomes probably beats Allen 9 out of 10 times in the playoffs. But this is that 1 out of
I don't
10
know.
times. All right,
This
so we
is the
gotta wrap it up.
scariest
We are
three-headed
out of
monster
time
at
for today.
receiver.
All right. I
All
don't
right,
know,
fine.
but we got end for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next time. Let us know what you think in the comments below.